I've worked night shifts as a security guard for over 10 years. In that time, I've encountered every kind of oddity: drunk stragglers, rats triggering motion sensors, even a couple sneaking into the service stairwell. But nothing prepared me for what happened at City Point Mall in Mumbai during one cold December night. It was a Tuesday. I remember that clearly. The air had that weird stillness to it, the kind that makes the city feel unnaturally quiet. By 12:30 a.m., the mall was shut. The janitors had clocked out. I was the only one on the premises, sitting alone in the cramped, dimly lit control room, staring at 24 CCTV feeds in black and white. I sipped lukewarm tea and leaned back. Most nights were dull. The occasional stray dog would wander near the loading dock. But tonight, something was off. At exactly 2:17 a.m., one of the monitors flickered. Camera 12. It showed the third-floor corridor outside Zara's showroom. There was a man standing near the railing. Tall, thin, dressed in all black. His back was to the camera. At first, I thought it was a cleaner or someone who stayed behind. But no one was scheduled past midnight, and I'd done my rounds. He wasn't there earlier. He hadn't come through the entrance. I blinked. He wasn't moving, just standing there. I leaned in and zoomed in slightly. His posture was rigid, too rigid. But then his shoulders moved slightly. He was breathing. I flipped through the other feeds. No sign of him anywhere else. Just camera 12. I tried radioing the backup guard, Ramesh. No response. Of course. He'd taken the week off. Flu. I was alone. I hesitated, then grabbed my flashlight and truncheon. I told myself it was probably someone drunk who'd wandered in through the fire exit. Maybe a prank. I took the staff elevator to the third floor. The fluorescent lights flickered as I stepped into the corridor. The silence was oppressive, thicker than usual. The air had a strange, stale smell, like old newspapers and damp wood. Zara's shutter was down. Everything was in place, but there was no one near the railing. I stepped forward cautiously, shining my flashlight around. I checked behind pillars in the stairwell. Even the maintenance closet nearby, nothing. Feeling uneasy, I returned to the control room. When I glanced at camera 12 again, my stomach dropped. The man was still there. Same spot. Same posture. Still unmoving. I stared at the screen. I'd just come from there. I zoomed in again. This time he'd turned slightly. Just enough for the camera to catch the corner of his face. His eyes were wrong. Too wide. Glossy. His mouth stretched into a subtle grin. Unnatural. Crooked. As if it had been drawn onto his face. His skin looked pale, even in black and white. Too pale. I stood frozen. Suddenly, all the monitors flickered. Just for a second. When they came back on, every camera showed him. All 24 feeds. Camera 1, the food court. Camera 5, the toy store. Camera 9, the elevator shaft. Even camera 23, the fire escape on the roof. Same man, same expression, same posture. And on camera 10, he was standing directly outside the control room door. I turned cold. I didn't dare breathe. Then came the sound. 3 slow, deliberate knocks. Right behind me, the metal door shook slightly. I could see it in my peripheral vision. I didn't turn. I couldn't. I whispered the Hanuman Chalisa under my breath. My fingers trembled over the console. My tea had spilled on the desk, forgotten. Then everything went dark. The monitors shut off. The fan died. Even the emergency light blinked and faded. The entire room was swallowed by silence. And in that silence, I heard breathing. Not mine. Heavy, raspy, as if someone was standing right beside me. I felt warmth on the side of my face, as if breath was touching my skin. I don't know how long it lasted. 10 seconds? A minute? Then, the lights blinked on. The monitors restarted. The hum of the fan returned. All the feeds were normal. Empty corridors. Silent halls. I rushed to the door and yanked it open. No one was there. But I noticed something on the floor outside. 3 long scratch marks, stretching from the doorway to the far wall, as if someone had been dragged, or something had crawled. I reported everything to my supervisor the next morning. He laughed it off at first, told me I needed sleep. But when he reviewed the security footage, his expression changed. From 2:15 to 2:50 a.m., the system had glitched. All files corrupted. Static. No footage. Our IT team tried recovering it. Failed. They said it looked like a power surge had knocked the data out. I asked them if any backup existed. They said no. That day's footage was unrecoverable. That same week, I requested a transfer. I didn't want to be alone in that building anymore. Something about that man, his face, stuck with me. Weeks passed. I tried forgetting. Told myself it was hallucination. Stress. Then one night, during my shift at another mall, I got a call from a friend. Another guard who had taken over my old post at City Point. "Bro," he said, "weirdest thing just happened. All the cameras just showed a guy in black. Same time, same posture. Every screen. Then static. You ever see something like that?" I didn't answer. I just hung up. That was last year. I haven't stepped into a mall's control room since. And yet, sometimes, when I'm walking home late at night, I catch a reflection in a shop window. A tall figure in black. Unmoving. Watching, always watching. My name is Samir Patel. I've been driving a cab in New Jersey for over 12 years, mostly working the night shift. People assume it's boring or just a way to make extra cash. But when the world sleeps, the streets come alive with their own kind of madness. Some nights I meet lonely drunks, lovers sneaking home, or people running from something. But last winter, I picked up a passenger I'll never forget because she was never really there. It was late January, freezing cold. Snowbanks lined the curbs like walls of white ash. I was driving my usual route through the quiet neighborhoods. Near Hackensack around 2:45 a.m. Most people were asleep. The roads were silent except for the crunch of my tires over snow. I was just about to head back home when my dispatch pinged me. "Pick up. Willow Creek Cemetery, main gate." I stared at the address. Strange. I knew the area. Willow Creek Cemetery was closed at night. There were no houses or businesses nearby, just gravestones and frozen trees. But a fair was a fair. I pulled a U-turn and drove toward the cemetery. The iron gate was open slightly, just enough for a person to walk through. My headlights cut through the fog as I pulled to the curb. And there she was. A woman stood just outside the gate. She wore a long gray coat, buttoned to the top, pale skin, black hair tucked into a scarf, and wide eyes that didn't blink in the cold wind. She looked maybe 30, but something about her face felt timeless, like an old photograph. She didn't wave or step forward, just stared. I rolled down the window. "You call for a cab?" She nodded, slowly. Yes. Her voice was soft, almost a whisper, but clear enough to hear over the engine. She slid into the back seat without another word. Where to, ma'am? Lincoln Street, near the river. That was 15 minutes away. Quiet, older part of town. I nodded and started driving. For the first 5 minutes, neither of us spoke. Then I glanced in the rearview mirror. She wasn't looking out the window. She was looking at me. Not in a flirtatious way. Not angry. Just looking. Unblinking. Her eyes were strange. Deep. Not glowing or anything unnatural. Just heavy. Like they held years of sorrow. Trying to break the tension, I said, "Cold night, huh?" She responded softly, "It's always cold now." I laughed awkwardly. "Yeah, winter here doesn't play around." Silence again. When we passed the old train bridge, I caught her reflection in the mirror. Except there wasn't one. The back seat was empty. I blinked hard, turned around quickly. She was sitting there, still, calm, as if nothing had happened. I shook my head and faced forward. My heart started to pound. We were approaching Lincoln Street. "You sure this is the right street?" I asked. "Yes," she said. "Third house on the right, with the blue door." I pulled over slowly. The house was dark. No lights on. Curtains drawn. No footprints in the fresh snow on the path leading to the porch. She leaned forward slightly and whispered, "He still lives here, you know." "Who?" "The man who hit me." I turned around. "What did you say?" But she was gone. The back seat was empty. The door hadn't opened. No sound. No weight shift. Just gone. I opened my door and stepped out, heart racing, breath fogging the air. I walked around to the back. Nothing. No footprints in the snow. Not a single mark showing anyone had exited. The back seat was dry, clean, cold. I looked up at the house. The porch light flickered on suddenly. Someone peeked through the curtain, then quickly shut it. I ran back into the car and drove off, my hands shaking. When I got home, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about her voice, the sadness in it, the weight of her eyes. The next afternoon, I did something I'd never done before. I went back to the cemetery. Willow Creek Cemetery was open during daylight, so I parked outside and walked in. I didn't know what I was looking for, but after 30 minutes of wandering between gravestones, I saw it. Near the edge of the property, beneath a large pine tree, Emily Rhodes, born 1987, died 2018. Forever waiting. A chill ran through me. It wasn't just the name. It was the picture on the headstone. Her face. It was her. Exactly as I saw her. Hair. Eyes. Scarf. Even the coat. I felt dizzy. I knelt in front of the stone, heart thudding in my ears. Below her name, someone had left fresh flowers. I looked around. No one nearby. I went home and couldn't shake the feeling. I searched her name online. After an hour, I found an article. Local woman killed in hit and run near Lincoln Street. The date, January 26, 2018. 5 years ago to the day, she'd been walking home from a friend's house when a car struck her outside the cemetery. The driver fled. Never caught. She died instantly. My blood went cold. I'd picked her up exactly 5 years later. At the same gate. At the same time. That same night, curiosity got the better of me. I drove back to Lincoln Street. Parked outside the third house on the right. The one with the blue door. This time, there was a light on inside. I stepped out of the car, heart pounding, and rang the bell. After a few seconds, a man in his late 50s opened the door. "Yes?" he asked. I didn't know what to say at first. Then I simply asked, "Do you know Emily Rhodes?" His face went pale. He looked behind him, then stepped outside, closing the door behind him. "How do you know that name?" he asked. "I picked up a woman last night. From the cemetery. She said this was her stop." He stared at me like I'd grown another head. Then he sighed. "I was the driver." I didn't breathe. He sat down on the porch steps. "I never meant to run. It was snowing. I didn't see her until it was too late. I panicked. I fled." He put his head in his hands. "I've lived with it every single day." She said, "You still live here?" I whispered. His head snapped up. "What?" She said it in my cab, before she disappeared. We sat in silence for a long time. Then he whispered, "I see her too sometimes. In the mirror. In dreams. Maybe she's trying to forgive me. Or maybe she's reminding me that I haven't paid for what I did." He looked at me. "Do you think ghosts ride in cabs now?" I didn't know how to answer. He stood, thanked me quietly, and shut the door. As I walked back to my car, I felt it again. That cold presence. I glanced in the rearview mirror, and for just a moment, I saw her. Emily, sitting calmly in the back seat. Watching. Always watching. Then she was gone, and I drove into the night, alone. Or so I told myself. My name is Dr. Elena Moore, and I've worked night shifts as a nurse practitioner for nearly a decade. I've heard it all. Strange noises in abandoned wings. Equipment that malfunctions for no reason. Even whispers in the dark blamed on sleep deprivation. But there's one night I've never been able to explain. It happened in 2022, during my overnight shift at St. Augustine Memorial Hospital, in the oldest wing, ICU West. That night, the hospital's intercom system began to speak, but no one was on the other end. ICU West was mostly unused, an older section that was partially decommissioned due to outdated wiring and insufficient ventilation. It was only reopened during major outbreaks when the other wings were full. That week, we had a massive flu spike, so they temporarily reactivated 4 rooms in ICU West for overflow patients. I was assigned there for the night shift, along with 2 other staff, one RN named Jenna and a respiratory tech named Dennis. The rest of the wing remained dark and silent. For patients were under observation, all stable, all sleeping. Around 2:12 a.m., the overhead intercom crackled. That alone wasn't strange. The system was old, and random pops and static weren't unusual. But this time, there was something else. A whisper, barely audible, garbled. Jenna, who was charting notes beside me, paused. "You heard that?" she asked. I nodded. It had sounded like someone trying to speak through a wind tunnel. I walked over to the nurse station panel and clicked the reset. "Probably a cross signal," I said, mostly to calm myself. The static faded. 20 minutes later, it came again. Room 12. "Please." I froze. Jenna stood up slowly. There was no room 12 in use. Only 4 rooms were operational, rooms 1 through 4. Room 12 was down the hall, in the dark section we weren't using anymore. It hadn't been opened in years. It didn't even have a working bed. Dennis returned from a routine vent check and saw our faces. "What's up?" "The intercom," Jenna said. "It's talking." We explained what we'd heard. Dennis scoffed. Probably feedback, or someone messing with the old board. But there was something uneasy in his voice. None of us wanted to go check room 12. Eventually, I volunteered. I'll go. I took a flashlight. The hallway leading to room 12 was darker than the rest. The fluorescent lights flickered slightly overhead. The air was colder, too. I pushed open the door to room 12. It creaked loudly. The room was empty. No bed, no equipment. Just old wall brackets where monitors used to be. A single chair sat in the corner. I turned to leave and froze. The intercom speaker in the ceiling popped. And then I heard it again. Elena, my name, whispered, drawn out. I backed away from the room, heart pounding, and returned to the station. You look like you saw a ghost, Jenna said. I heard my name, I replied. Dennis turned pale. No way. Before we could respond, the intercom flared again. This time, clearer. I'm still here. We stared at each other. Dennis grabbed the master override and powered down the panel. The lights above us flickered again, this time accompanied by a brief, loud burst of static. All three of us jumped. Okay, Dennis said. This is not a technical glitch. We checked the main comm room. It was locked, as it should be. The backup system wasn't even wired to ICU West. At 3:03 a.m., the heart monitor in room 2 began beeping erratically. I rushed in. The patient, Mr. Halvorsen, was thrashing slightly. His oxygen levels were dropping. Seizure? Jenna asked as she entered. No. Look at his chart. He's not epileptic. We stabilized him, adjusted his CPAP, and sedated him. Slowly, his vitals returned to normal. As we exited, we heard it again. From the intercom in the hallway. He doesn't belong here. I felt a chill run down my spine. Dennis shook his head. I'm done. I'm calling maintenance. He left for the lower floor. That's when Jenna told me something I'll never forget. She leaned close and whispered, back in 2015, there was a nurse who killed herself in room 12. I stared at her. She lost a patient, a little girl. They say she blamed herself, locked herself in room 12, and took pills. They didn't find her until the next morning. You're telling me that this is that room? Jenna nodded. She was on the night shift too, she added. Just like us. My skin crawled. Dennis returned 15 minutes later, sweating. There's no power going to the ICU West panel, he said. It was cut off years ago. The override's been disabled. The intercom should be dead. It's not, I whispered. It's awake. We sat in silence for a while. The only sounds were the occasional monitor, beeps, and the ticking of the old wall clock. At 3:45 a.m., the final message came. Every intercom in the wing turned on at once. Rooms, hall, station. The speakers whispered in unison. He left me here, in the dark. Then, dead silence. The lights dimmed, and room 2's alarm blared again. We rushed in. Mr. Halvorsen was flatlining. Code blue. We worked fast. Chest compressions. Oxygen. But he didn't come back. He died at 3:46 a.m. The same time, I later learned that the nurse in 2015 had passed away. Same room. Same time. Same wing. I filed an internal report, but the admin brushed it off as stress and technical failure. ICU West was shut down again a few weeks later. Permanently, this time. But I still dream about that voice. Sometimes, when I close my eyes, I hear it, crackling, soft, distant. I'm still here, and I believe her, because whatever stayed behind in that room, it never left.